Alright, good people, this is Eddie Gray back at it again, and today we are looking at Modo drum. We're actually going through the user guide to better understand this instrument, and also if we get a chance, I'm going to show you how to route this in a multi-routing, in a multi-output situation. Alright, let's get right into it. Like our award-winning Modo-based software, Modo Drum delivers incredibly realistic and authentic tracks for your music with a level of control over every detail you've never imagined before. Create the drum tracks of your dreams with access to every parameter of every drum in your kit, from size and tension to material and playstyle and so much more. Let's go to the next paragraph. Unlike traditional sample-based virtual instruments, Modo Drum utilizes IK Multimedia's award-winning modal synthesis technology and an ultra-optimized sound engine to bring your drums to life. Each drum's acoustic behavior is determined by its physical parameters, dimensions, materials, skin, and more. Quick side note, you can actually change the skin and the diameter of your drums. You can change the size of your cymbals. This is nuts. Modo Drum also models the playstyle, the interaction of the drum head with the body, the sympathetic vibration of the drums with each other, and the acoustic interaction with the room. Alright, you can see that this is pretty serious business, so we're just going to get straight into it here. Hope you guys are well. In this first section, we talk about all the various drums. 10 in total. They're all MIDI compatible. Now, because there's so much to cover, I definitely need to move fairly quickly, but I do want to say that the symbols that you will find navigating the Modo drum interface can change, so I just want to be clear about that. And we can change the room upon which the drums are suited. So for example, Black Oyster, you can tell this is a 60s drum kit, very reminiscent of the Beatles drum kit. And so we can put this in a garage, we can put this inside of a venue, inside of a hall, and it'll change up the overall performance and sound. The De Gentleman is a 5-piece kit with a deep burst of sound that will invite you to dive in and explore the depths of this drum set. The biting yet warm notes spoken by this kit create the fundamental expression of the new metal movement. Alright, so let's go ahead and test the waters here. Now this is not necessarily a metal beat, but let's listen to the kit. Okay, great. So the way I'll be generating grooves today is with Logic's Drummer. I may also be converting to MIDI every once in a while, just for fun. And then on top of that, I may be using the generator inside of Modo Drum. Alright, let's carry on here. So we've got all sorts of great drum sets that you can check out for yourself. Everything from jazz to metal. The reference here is an 8-piece set. It's a classic timeless kit, represents major advances in design with interior piles of mahogany and outer piles of maple. So this is some deep stuff. What about the Babinga? I think that's a type of wood. Alright, good. And so let's go ahead and listen to that specific drum kit. So that's right here on the right hand side. I'm going to use one of my favorite features, which is the velocity slider here at the front of the interface. Sounds pretty incredible. Let's keep this going. So again, lots of kits all suited for all your drum needs. Here are all the crash cymbals, their size, so you can check that out. All right, let's look at the header of the interface. It says here, in addition to the templates for each kit model, you can find additional factory presets by clicking the drop-down menu on the upper left-hand corner. You can also navigate presets from here. So if I click up here, we not only have the 10 kits, but we have various iterations. So let's go with old unplugged and let's see what they give us here. I'll just navigate the presets here. All right, so it's kind of nice that we get more than just the 10 kits. So obviously with the 10 kits, it's not that they're giving you extra drum sets. It's that they're actually just customizing all of the various features for you, including the sticks, snare types, what you're doing inside of the mixer, so on and so forth. We can save presets. You find something you like, we save. All of a sudden you start to save your own sounds, maybe based on projects or what have you. We can also delete presets by clicking the delete button. It's currently dimmed out because I haven't saved anything. So that is that. Let's keep going here. Alright, so once we want to go into the customize selection, let me go ahead and choose the rock kit for this. And then I will go into the customize tab. It says here, Modo Drum offers the most customization options ever seen. I concur, allowing you to control the entire spectrum of playing drums from the kit itself, the playing style, stick selection, room choice, and effects. The customize section lets you add, remove, swap, rearrange from the template kits. For each drum in the kit, you can adjust many characteristics on the fly, including the skins, tuning, damping, diameter, height, and the shell profile. Okay, that is a lot. For the snare drums, the type and tension of the snare can be adjusted. The type and tension, that's nuts. And for both kick and snare, you can even adjust the sympathetic vibration of nearby drums. So in other words, when you hit the snare, how are the other drums reverberating as a result of? Cymbals can be tuned up or down, and damping can be adjusted. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Okay, that's a lot. Let's start with the snare. Okay, and then once I click on that, how do I start to customize it further? Okay, I know that I can exchange it. We talked about that yesterday. What about edit? Let's try that. I think that is going to be it. Okay. Check this out. All right, so really to make this work, I'm going to eliminate everything from Logic's drummer except the snare. You might hear a couple things here and there that are not the snare, just throwing that out there. But here we go. Is this incredible or what? I mean, this is just so rad. All right, let's so I'm not a drummer per se, and I don't know what all these kit pieces mean, or I don't even know their proper name, but I've played in enough groups that I've seen all of this stuff before. So here are the drum heads, and you can choose different skins. What does this have to do with? rounded. I think how it's constructed, I could be wrong about that. So here I'm just blending the overheads with the room. Let's check out the level of tension on the snare. So by increasing the diameter of the snare, it actually makes it sound a little bit more full-bodied. Alright, and so if I bring the kick back into play, I can go ahead and start to customize that on this very screen. Let's check that out. Okay, let's go ahead and take out the snare. So lots of customizability, so much you can do here. Again, we can work on all the various pieces of the drum kit. But I'm going to go ahead and move on because you can hear that it sounds wonderful no matter what we do. And this is something that you'll have to kind of get into yourself. We can enable and disable certain drums. Just click on each individual drum element. If you right click it, it's going to deactivate. So I don't know, maybe you just don't want a kit that is, this big, and you just want, a smaller set. And so if we click on that and I control click it, it seems not necessarily to be working on my end. Right clicked to view the drum enable control. Yeah, so I'm not seeing that specific screen. And I'm hitting every keyboard modifier and I'm just not seeing it. So maybe this is something that's been changed. Not exactly sure. But on the left hand side we have the edit kit button. Absolutely incredible what you can do here. It's just such an incredible piece of software. So we want to change that snare. We can change that. We want to change that cymbal to, instead of a 16 vintage, we'll just go with a crash 16 here. And so you understand how that can work. This is the part that I really want to work on, is the playing style. So let's go to the next page here. Talked about swapping drums, so you can create the Frankenstein kit, as they say here on the user guide. We can edit the various elements, as we've already spoken about. Cymbals are going to have fewer editing possibilities, obviously, but as mentioned, we can damp cymbals. If I go back to customize and I go into edit, not much we can do except tune, dampen, and then bring in those room mics and then just the overall volume as well. So that seems to be the same for cymbals all across. So if I wanted to tune this down, I can. I love that you can bring those room mics and those overheads into play. All right, available parameters, everything from the batter head type to the batter head damping, batter head tuning. So again, if I go back into the kick, for example, and let's say we want to change the playing style of the kick, we get to choose what the technique is, right? We mentioned this in yesterday's video. We're going to keep the heel up, the heel down. When we play, are we going to use a plastic beater, felt, or wood? Let's see what wood sounds like. So plastic sounds a little bit more modern, and felt and wood have kind of their own unique soft feel. All right, let's change the positioning of the room. When the drums play, are we inside of a garage? Or are we doing something a bit more stereo, something like a booth? Okay, good. So let me go ahead and convert this over to MIDI, just so we can start changing some of the aspects here. All right, good. And then I'll just move that. Maybe I'll take out every other snare. All right. All right, good. We'll click on that specific snare and we're going to edit that element. Okay, good. And then from there, let's see if we are going into play style. All right, page 30. So we talked about editing cymbals, what that looks like, editing the kit, all the various aspects in here. Pretty detailed and straightforward section. Gives you access to all the control a drummer has over the physical instrument. We can save all of this stuff. Click the save button and type in your new element preset name. So if we go back in here, let's say we wanted to save this. I wonder if we just save right here. Folder preset global, preset name. Let me just make sure that is the right instruction. Yeah, preset name. You can save and load your edited elements as element presets when working in customized mode. Click the save button at the bottom right. Okay, no, so now there's something else going on. Let's say you really like this snare and it reminds you, I don't know, of your favorite band. You can save down here. call this what you will. And so then the next time maybe you're working on something, you know that you need to access a couple of your settings, you can find those right there. And I just deleted this one here. All right, so that is for defined elements. So that's pretty cool. We talked about the kick batter head. The batter head primarily produces the energy that is being transformed into sound. It affects the attack, the volume, the tonal spectrum. It's also responsible for the rebound and durability of the drum. All right, coated or clear heads. Coating on a drum head tends to muffle the sound, while clear heads tend to sound brighter and more open. Again, we've never seen anything like this before with this kind of detail. Let's talk about the kick shells. The shell is the main part of any drum, right? The way it's built. This is really where the sound starts once you hit the head. Whether it's a wooden shell glued in piles or a metal shell cast in a mold, everything that goes into making the shells has an effect on the sound the drum produces. Let's take a look at the infinite possibilities you have at your fingertips. So we're talking about the diameter, right? How deep your drum kit sounds. The larger the kick diameter, the deeper the sound, of course. Use this in conjunction with the depth control to obtain the results you're looking for. So let's go with diameter and depth when we're talking about the kick. So here I will bring up the kick. Let's make sure I'm playing the right, because we have two kicks inside of here. Alright, so that's the one I want to play with, and we're going to go to edit this element. Okay, and we talked about diameter and depth. Yeah, great stuff here. All right, this is the part that I was confused with earlier. Point, sharp, or rounded. So we're talking about the shells then. Whether you're a vintage lover or a modern cutting edge drummer, with Modo Drum you can set up your instrument in no time. Try experimenting with the round shell's edge to give your drum a more damp sound. All right, so where was that? Right here. So this is going to dampen the kick a little bit more. Subtle differences. Try experimenting with rounded shell's edge to give your drum a more damp sound, or go for a sharp edge to get a medium sustain. Alternatively, use point shell's edge to get more sustain and a lower pitch. Blend the results with diameter and depth to create the perfect body of your drum kick, or your kick drum. Very cool. All right, what's the kick resonant head? So this is going to resonate. The resonant head amplifies certain frequencies that were initially produced by the batter head and the drum shell. Works a bit like an equalizer. Damp, volume, and tuning. Damp, volume, and tuning. This is for the front head and the back head. So let's try this out. Not sure if this is the equivalent of putting a towel inside of a drum. I know that's like old school methodology. People put like pillows or what have you to change up the sound. Yeah, very subtle and yet very authentic. I think when you get to this point in the game, it really is a game of inches, and all this small stuff will ultimately add up to make a grand difference. Alright, let's look at the buzz, room, and overhead controls. So buzz, room, and overhead controls. Just like a drum tech, with Modo Drum you can control every aspect of the kick construction. The Modo Drum engine gives you control over the mechanical interactions. For example, when you play the kick drum or hit the snare with your sticks, the contact between the drumstick and the membrane creates an interaction process between kick, snare, and toms. Modo Drum can reproduce that exact interaction and let you feel like you're playing the real thing. Very cool. So what's the tom buzz going to do? This sets the amount of mechanical interaction between the kick and the toms. Snare buzz sets the amount of mechanical interaction between the kick and the snare. Finally, to ensure we didn't miss anything, we added the room and overhead controls for your kick too. Yeah, money. I like it. Let's try this. Yeah, so I hear a little bit more low end when I work with the tom buzz. With the snare, I can hear the rattling of the snare. Let's bring in the room overheads and the mics. Yep, just a little bit more reverb as a whole, more ambiance. Yeah, I mean, and depending on the song, right? Sometimes you're going to have songs that are not going to require this level of attention. Sometimes the kick is critical in a specific song or in a specific passage. So there you go. All right, so we start talking about more or less the same thing, right? The snare skins, how this is going to affect performance, the snare shell, which more or less relates to everything we just talked about. Snare resonant head, right, sets the tension of the snare wires on the bottom head. So let's see how that affects us. So let's move to the snare. And let me just make sure I have the snare enabled. Okay, so what am I looking for? The tension here. So I can choose large. Let's see what this sounds like at 0. Yeah, so here you hit the snare, and I'm not sure what the technical term of this is, but those little links or those chains, see, sets the tension. The snare wires on the bottom of the head are going to shake accordingly because either they're loose or they're tight. Let's go back to the kick just for a quick second, and you can hear that I have a lot of snare buzz, so I'm going to remove that, and then I will go back to the snare because everything is obviously influencing everything else. So even though it sounds like a damp control, it's not. It's tightening up those wires on the snare, so it's just changing the quality of the timbre. Boy, is that detailed. Alright, so we can save that if we would like to. Just go ahead and save. Let's say that that you really like a really tight snare, kind of like a piccolo. You can just save that and just have it at the ready. So when you're ready to write a new song or draft something out, everything's already taken care of for you. Alright, same goes for toms. More or less the same in terms of the skins, the body, the resonance. Okay, let's go into play style. This is the one that really interests me, specifically with the snares, but we'll check all of these out. In addition to the sound of the drums themselves, Modo Drum lets you adjust the way the drummer plays the instrument. For toms and snare, it is possible to select the stick type. That's pretty cool, you gotta admit, and set the related tip size individually for both left and right hands. Okay. Open the playstyle section by clicking on the tab in the bar at the top of the screen. Okay, so we're here, playstyle, and I'd love to start with the snare. Let's see here. You get to choose from snare, toms, or kicks. The type of stick influences the timbre of the attack. If you choose no tip, this is going to give you a resonant mid-frequency attack. If you choose teardrop nylon, that's going to give you more of a high-frequency attack. Wood is a middle ground between the two. Alright, so let's try out teardrop nylon for a high-frequency attack. Again, this is on the snare. Alright. Let me see. Choose no tip, teardrop nylon. Okay. Let's listen to that high frequency. Okay, and then this should sound a little bit darker, no tip. Okay, and then finally teardrop wood. Alright, let's go to the next page. In addition to the left and right hands, you can also choose different snare sticks and toms. This offers even more customization possibilities. You can select the open lock image to the left and right sticks separately. Alright, so if I lock these, oh, okay, cool. That's kind of nice that you could just do it both at the same time. Yeah, because I don't know how this works yet, I was kind of looking at that. It was the reason why I was changing these back and forth. But this is a nice little element. Let's say we want to customize the right side, we can, the left side we can. Okay, so let's go ahead and get this thing straight, because I think this is it might be one of the centerpieces of this software instrument. The volume is going to set the volume of the sticks. Keep it at 5 for standard behavior. Okay, so let's go ahead and just do that now. 5. Yeah, that is really subtle. See the Midi mapping chapter to see how left and right triggers are managed. Use the left area and right area knobs to adjust the precision of the hit area. This lets you set the degree of hit consistency from a random, regular mood to a super focused mechanical hit. The left area and the right area. So maybe what this means is that every single time we use the right hand, and we'll determine that behavior a little later, I hope, that basically it's going to be mechanical. The sample will not sound that different. And I suppose if you want both of them to sound more or less the same, you would place them right on top of one another. Let's see what this sounds like. Okay, I would agree that that sounds very similar. So if I move the left and the right and I separate them, let's see what this sounds like. Alright, so I'm assuming that this is only playing with the left hand right now. And so as a result, when I increase the left area size, you can hear more variety within the performance. Okay, so that is starting to make a little bit more sense. I wish they would have given me some more info. But generally speaking, I think that they're modeling this after a right-handed drummer, so you can assume that this is the left hand. I'm not sure what the right hand would have to do. I don't know if it's contingent on a fill or something like that, but let's check this out. So that's pretty cool. I wish I had a little bit more info there. So we talked about the kick already extensively. Are we using heel up or heel down technique? And that's basically going to change up the vibe entirely. To play fast double bass pedal style drumming, like for metal, the heel is going to be up, right? Because that lends itself well to that style of music. Best way to consider endurance, muscles used, and power. All right, let's go to the next one. All right, we get to choose the beater style here. Like felt, plastic is one of the more common bass drum beater types. A plastic bass drum beater has a very defined attack, so you get to pick what that is. Felt is the most common of the bunch. These beaters are great for general use. There's enough definition, and you still get a nice full bass drum thump. Felt is the best bass drum beater for drummers wanting a moderate attack and a deep thud. Alright, so we have felt. Plastic. What is wood? You hit the rest of your kit with wooden sticks, so why not use wood on the bass drum too? The sound of a wood bass drum beater is similar to wooden drumsticks. To compare with other kick drum beater types, think of wood as slightly less bright version of a plastic beater, There's a strong attack with wood bass drum beaters and a good amount of depth to the sound. Depending on the wood size and density, wooden bass drum beaters can have a heavy impact or a lighter feel. Wood bass drum beaters are great for music styles that require a strong bass drum punch. You'll get good depth to your sound and your bass drum will stand out. Okay, cool. Let's go to the room section here. So I don't think we have the same customizing abilities, but you can see that we have quite a lot of options. Anything from a club to a cathedral. So here's the warehouse sound. Alright, let me change the model. I'm going to go to, let's do reference. Here we go. Alright, so we're playing with the tom here. Everything from the floor tom to, the first tom, second tom, floor tom number 2. All the kicks are here. Alright, let's listen to this drum set in a different room. So let's bring in the crash cymbals, the kick, the snare. Here we go. Okay, we have 9 available rooms. In the room section, you can place the kit in various available environments, from a dry studio booth to the fully wet, reverberating sound of the cathedral. To access the room slider by clicking on the icon at the middle right side of the screen, from this dialog, you can control the amount of room. The slider mirrors the room channel strip in the mixer. Alright, middle right of the screen. Let's see if you guys can help me out here. Do you see that icon somewhere? Because I certainly don't. Is it this guy right here, maybe? Yeah, sweet. Alright, so we get to blend the room. So let's go dry. Alright, so they say that this mirrors the room channel strip in the mixer section. So if I go to the mixer and I try and make my way and I go to overhead and room, it looks like these are one and the same, to be clear. So that channel strip right there coincides with that one. That's pretty cool. Alright, good stuff. What else you got for me? Special feature inside of the mixer. Let's read about this. Is the instrument icon positioned at the top of every channel strip. Every icon graphically represents the instrument associated with the channel. Click the icons to hear the sound. Alright, so if I go into the mixer, you can see all of these various graphics. Right, there's my kick, my toms. Let's bring that room down a little bit. Cool. Okay, that's awesome. So now we have total control over the recorded sound. We can adjust levels, panning, we can mute, we can solo, flip the phase. Elements can be grouped in buses. That is certainly what interests me right there. And then, like I said, if they allow us, we can go into multi-output. Otherwise, if you want to see that, you can hit me in the comments, and I will show you how to do that. Click the 5th tab in the bar to open the mixer section. This is where you create your perfect balance between the close mics, room mics, buses, effects, and room signals. Alright, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is where the magic happens. Let's go. Alright, they describe in full detail the channel strip as a whole, which I really like that they take the time to do this kind of stuff. I think that's really important. We have the track volume, the peak level, the fader, and they have keyboard modifiers associated with that. You have the output options here on the channel strip as well. Alright, I guess we should probably go over the sends. The available sends are send 1 and send 2. Overhead send to overhead channel and room send to the room control. Alright, so I just want to see something really quick. Room send to the room. Okay, got it. So we have 2 individual sends, and then inside of OH or overhead and room, we have these 2 sends that we can send to the entire drum kit as a whole, if I'm understanding this correctly. Alright, each send is equipped with an on and off button and gain knobs. Right, these effect sends are related to the 2 effect strips, which you can view by clicking the effects button. So if I disable or at least hide overheads and rooms and I go to effects, we have 2 reverbs that are currently instantiated. Of course, if I hit the up and down arrow menu, we can also bring in compression for to use like parallel compression or New York compression. We have clippers, distortion, more reverbs, more delays, and then some modulation sources as well. So as of now, we just have a lot of reverb, probably because the room I chose was the Cathedral. If I chose something more like mid studio, I wonder, yeah, I have a lot of the same. I'm just probably not using as much, and we can probably corroborate that by looking at the overhead room and seeing that reflected inside here. Alright, let's see. All the mixer channel strips are now showing dedicated sends to room and overhead, from where you can control the volume of the element sends to the overhead channel and to the room. Okay, let's see this. Okay, good. The overhead sends and room sends of the mixer Mirror the overhead control and the room control in the edit element section. Okay, cool. So what you're seeing here is basically the same stuff you're seeing here. Of course, here it's happening on an individual basis, whereas inside the mixer it's happening kind of as a whole for the entire kit. I do want to learn how to use this buses section because I understand that going to the overheads, the room, the entire kit, the effects section are send 1 and send 2, but how do we use this bus? Maybe these are the summing groups. That would make sense that we could send various elements to, in this case, bus number 1. I don't know if you, yep, okay, so now that's starting to make sense. I don't know if you can send, yeah, I guess you can add buses. Okay, that's pretty cool. Just discovered that. All right, let's keep going here. Like a standard channel strip, the overhead and room channels also has 4 slots available for effects, separate 8-band parametric equalizer, and mute solo phase inversion buttons. So if you wanted to, if we go to the overheads, we can compress the daylights out of these. We can add some more verb, a clipper. Let's go ahead and do something wild like that. Let's see what this sounds like. Yeah, of course, if you're looking to create something really aggressive at some point, you're going to kind of have to switch it up. Let's go ahead and change up the drummer type here in Logic just to start getting some different performances. Let me choose this Jesse guy inside of Logic, which just generates some new MIDI data for me. Okay, and in doing that, I need to bring back Modo drum. Okay, as that loads, let's talk about buses. Modo drum lets you use infinite buses to group your drum elements any way you like. To create a bus, select an element track from the mixer and view the routing options. Okay, so right now I'm going to do this with the snare and I'll do the snare, the kick, and the hi-hat. So let's go into the mixer. Now this is perfect because all of these are just being routed to the master. So I'm going to take this guy and I'm going to add it to bus 1. I'll do the same with the snare. And I'll do the same with the hi-hat. Okay. Now what we're going to do here specifically on bus number 1 is we're going to compress. Now there's different ways to do this. I'm just going to keep it really simple, and I'm just going to squeeze by means of parallel compression. We can also add like an equalizer if we wanted to, but like I said, we're just going to keep it simple. So let's just do that. Okay, we'll bring this and let's give it a shot. Okay, so you can see that those elements are now going into the bus. Now, I don't see a way of particularly controlling how hard, but I guess it's not necessarily an aux. But there you go. You have your summing groups if you want to work like that, which is really just, you know, the right way I think to do this, because it's really going to help bring out the life of this particular piece. I mean, look, without it, it sounds like this. And so obviously that has a lot more character and a lot more grit to it. So that's great. Alright, if we click on the buses button, we're going to go ahead and access all of these tracks. Gives us a tip here at the bottom left. It says a mix bus is a way to send or route one or more selections of audio to a particular place. Being able to adjust multiple sources or channels with a single group fader is one of the great advantages to having multiple buses. For example, I can have all the toms grouped together in one bus. I can have all the cymbals, right? Like a standard channel strip, the bus channel also has 4 slots dedicated to effects, a separate 8-band equalizer, which I showed you earlier, and then the same buttons you would see on the channel strip and routing options as well. So wait a minute, are you telling me you can route the bus to something else? Oh, okay. Inside of your DAW, you can route these out. That's pretty cool. All right, so we have an 8-band equalizer. I don't think I really need to go over an equalizer here, but you have all the, the usual suspects: high pass, low shelf, a bell filter, a high shelf, a low pass, etc. All the usual curves to enhance your mixing effects. All right, all of the effects. It says here that you can easily drag and drop effects from a slot to another simply by clicking and holding. And so let's go back to that bus and let's add a couple more elements. I'm going to add some distortion. All right, and that we know that the order of these effects are going to affect one another. And so they don't necessarily work in parallel, they work in serial, meaning one after the other. So if I grab this, I'm going to try and drag it over to the left. No luck here. I'm not finding the groove. Is this not how this works? What did I miss here? Can you see? Click and hold the effect from the mixer. Okay, I'm inside the mixer. I'm holding. Nothing. I know I can exit out here. It's not necessarily what I want to do. Let me just, I guess they're probably referring, oh, okay. They're referring to that. That's not as slick. Would have been nice if I could just have adjusted from within that menu. So yeah, like in here, but it's okay. So that's a great sound as well. Could be nice for a transition, for an intro, what have you. So those are all the various effects. Among them, various clippers. What is this big pig? I have to check. You guys know that, right? Can I just click there? Let's go to big pig. What's up with this? Alright, so it's like distortion on steroids. Alright, we've got a phaser. I really like using modulation sources such as chorus and flanger on fills. I think it sounds really awesome. Alright, so they go over all the various effects. You've got your standard SSL compressor, your LA2As, your 1176s, all great stuff here. You have gates, which are often underutilized in my opinion. Look how much better you can make your drum set sound. Not in general, by the way. Don't always use it, but when you can use it, you should. Check it out. So let me do the same thing this time, but let me put it on the master because it would make a little bit more sense for me to do this not on a bus per se, but on the master. Check it out. So for example, you're going into a verse, all of a sudden you just want a different form or way of expressing yourself. This is going to tighten up that rhythm section in a way that you really can't do in post-production, unless obviously you have the ability to go, you know, and re-record the drummer. But generally speaking, that's not an option in most cases. So this, it almost sounds like a different drum performance, like as if he or she intentionally played it differently. All right, let me go ahead and bypass that, and let's see what is next. So the Big Pig is modeled after an iconic distortion. Yeah, it sounds like a really intense distortion. We got the Crusher here, which changes the sample rate and cutoff frequency. So yeah, more distortion, a bunch of reverbs, some tape delay, the gold standard of vintage tape echo units. All right, that's all good. All right, DAW outputs. Let's transition here. When you open Modo Drum as a plugin on your DAW, every mixer channel, tracks, buses, overhead, returns, and effect can be routed to an external output for DAW integration. This process eliminates the signal routing through Modo Drum master channel. Therefore, the master channel meter will not display the signal. To access the DAW outputs, click the drop-down menu at the bottom of each track to view and select the routing options. For example, click Daw Out and then assign the track to DAW output 1. Now this could be different for every DAW, I would imagine, but let me go ahead and just check inside of Logic how this is going to work. So if I click here and I go to DAW, you can see that it gives you various outputs. Now I'm going to try this. I've never done this before, but I'm just going to give this a go. I can't imagine that this is how it works. So 3, 4, and 5 and 6. Now the problem with this is I only have stereo output 1 and 2, as you can see. So how can I make this work? Well, that's what I want to talk to you about, multi-output. So I'm going to click up here, and rather than choosing Modo Drum, I'm going to choose multi-output. And then I'm going to go into the mixer. I'm going to click here a bunch of times for a total of 16 different tracks, right? 3, 4, 5, 6. And so then now this makes a little bit more sense, because when I route the, let's go to mixer, the snare to, let's say, 3 and 4, or the kick rather, and then the snare to, let's say, 5 and 6. Let's see if this follows suit. Cool. So that was easy. So then you go along and you route everything else. I would probably just take my time and do everything one by one. And then, of course, you save this within the IK Multimedia GUI interface and within your DAW of choice. And so I'm not going to do all this now, but now at least you understand the routing. So I would save this here and call it Logic Multi-Output, and then I would do the same inside of the library. I would hit save and then save it within here, and then you can always have your DAW communicating with IK Multimedia. Now this is cool because if you want to, let's say, mix the snare individually outside of the interface, you feel maybe a little more comfortable. All right, so that's a great way to do that. So that is multi-output perspective. Right from the master track, it is possible to select the desired perspective. This preference allows you to swap the stereo image. Select the point of view of the drummer or the point of view of the audience. Note that all the pan controls work in drummer perspective and will appear reversed in the audience perspective. So that's pretty rad. It looks like we have mixer presets as well. This is going to be from the top of the master track. Oh, check that out. All right, so if we have metal, or I don't know, maybe you have a client and every single time they come in, you want their drums to sound like X. So that's pretty efficient. All right, looks like we're moving into the groove section. And there's that perspective button right there at the bottom. Again, I talked about that in my last video. It's probably one of my favorite features. I understand that you can do that in your DAW as well. You know, you could just flip the channels inside of Logic by holding Command like that. But the fact that they thought of it, it just shows the care, right? The level of attention and service that they gave to making this incredible plugin. All right. So once you've got your dream kit dialed in and mastered your drum mix, it's time to start making music. You've got 1,400 MIDI patterns to help you get this going. We've included smart filters. You'll find MIDI patterns of every style and mood here, including variations to easily build song sections. These loops are handcrafted by our team or drawn from our acclaimed virtual instrument libraries to be unmistakably unique. Trigger these from within Modo or drag and drop into your DAW. All right. Just want to see if there's anything unique. We know we have these filters and we can favorite them. All right. Of course, we can drag and drop into our DAW. So let's say we want to hear something in the metal world. We want to hear just choruses. The leading hand is going to be an open hi-hat, 1 bar long, or I don't know, maybe 2 bars, and 4/4. Let's check it out. All right, cool. So let me go ahead and delete what I have, and I will just click and drag this over. All right, let's take a listen. Hold on, hit the wrong button there. Okay. Yeah, that almost sounds like Nirvana, doesn't it? Yeah. All right, cool. The tempo tab at the bottom of the groove column, you'll find the tempo tab. By default, patterns are previewed at their original BPM. The sync button forces the preview to a selectable BPM, which is editable in the field at the right. All right, so if we look at the bottom here, I can sync to 95 beats per minute. Good, let's go double time. Oh, because I'm syncing, I can't use that. Let's go double time. Oh, wait a minute. I have to hit that inside of the Groove Engine, not inside of Logic. I was hitting spacebar. Let's try this out. All right, cool. Say I really like that. I can just favorite that here. Awesome. Okay, what else we got? The transport bar. Now that you know how to use the grooves, we'll explain the transport bar, which is related to grooves, MIDI velocity, and master volume. So that's at the bottom of the screen there. Slider controls the velocity curve of the MIDI pattern. When set to its maximum value, pattern dynamics will be at the loudest point. Conversely, when positioned to the minimum, they will be reduced to their minimum. Velocity affects not only patterns, but all incoming MIDI. The velocity parameter is also stored with each preset. Okay. There is a play button down here where we can control the grooves. Of course, we can change from within here as well. I want to know what that refresh button is for. Oh, maybe that means loop. I could be wrong. No, I have no idea what that's for, so let's find out. There's a refresh button. Lets you change the patterns without losing continuous consistency and reproduction. You can play and change patterns continuously without starting over. Oh, okay, got it. So I think, like, you know, if I go from this one, yeah, it kind of like just abruptly cuts in, whereas if I have this set up, that's pretty cool. You can test out transitions and things of that nature. Alright, MIDI mappings. We're getting close to the end here. The mapping section lets you customize your MIDI map. The note assignments for each drum or articulation. A custom MIDI map lets you associate the articulations of Modo drum elements to MIDI notes. This can be very useful when Modo drum is interfaced with specific electronic drum trigger hardware. So it just depends on how you want to lay this out, essentially. And I love that a lot of this is so self-explanatory. We didn't necessarily have to do this, but I do think it's good to take the time to learn everything you can. I know for me, this is going to be the drum that I use exclusively. This is going to be the library that I use exclusively. I might have another library just as backup in case I need something else, but for the most part, this is where I am going to keep most of my time, simply because it's so easy to use. And so I don't know if I'll be changing the articulations and such, but everything is here in case you need to change your setup. I don't know, maybe you like your hi-hats next to your toms or something. And so this is going to help you kind of designate all of that. I guess let's talk about the velocity curve inside here. Each articulation can be controlled by a dedicated velocity curve. Right, this is going to transform the incoming MIDI velocities to new values as determined by the shape of the curve. The practical purpose is to customize Modo's drum response in order to get the right feeling with your hardware controller. So basically, if you're going to play this, I don't know, maybe live, and you need it to respond a certain way based on MIDI, right, 0 to 127, you're going to want to play with this section here. So in my case, I'm using the musical typing keyboard, and so really it's just one message, it's one note, so I can't really demo that, but this is the section to work on that kind of stuff. Preferences, you can work on the interface brightness and the sound content folder, so you can change the path for the sound content. To change the location, first move the folder MD sound content to the new desired location, and then you can link that by means of the browse button. Alright, we have audio MIDI preferences, and here we can choose our output device if you're using this in standalone. Looks like you can change your sample rate, and hold on, I just want to make sure that these features are only going to be available in the standalone version. Yeah, very cool. That's pretty much it. Yeah. I just wanted to thank IK Multimedia for creating such a wonderful instrument. I think many modern creatives all over the world are going to enjoy it. And I just wanted to thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, go ahead and hit that like button. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to serve and to be here with you and to learn and grow. As always, stay focused on what you want. Stay focused on who you are and what you are to, and you will get to that next level. All right, I'm going to get out of here. This is Eddie Gray signing off on behalf of everyone at hfmusicacademy.com. Stay up.